So you're applying to uni on UCAS and you're not quite sure how to prepare for your admission test, or even not sure which one to sit. Well, we're going to talk about all that in today's video, so keep watching to learn more. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Wesley and I'm a recent high school graduate and Cambridge medic offer holder. I know it's been a while, but now I'm back from vacation and here with a new video for the UCAS series about the admission tests. So being a pre-med, most of my research was around the BMAT and the UCAT, which are both clinical admission tests for medics, vets, and dental students. But from helping out my friends, I found out a thing or two about the LNAT, the TMUA, and the TSA, etc. So I just did a bit more to put together today's video. And if you have no idea what all that means, then don't worry, I'll walk you through it. Disclaimer, I'm not a professional consultant, so all this is just from experience and research. Also, it's impossible to cover all exceptions, hence we'll only be covering the major subjects and as many unis as I possibly can. Enough said, let's begin. So like I mentioned, not all subjects in unis have admissions tests. Subjects like medicine, dentistry, vets, law, and math usually have admission tests. Oxbridge has a handful of other admission tests as well, and in some circumstances, other unis might require a special assessment. Up here, you'll see a table of the unis that require some of the more common admission tests. This is just for reference, and it's always good to double check. Moving on to booking the test. So for the UCAT and the LNAT, these are provided by Pearson, and you can book the test on their respective websites. The remaining are either provided by Cambridge Assessment Admissions Testing or Oxford, and you can go on to the respective sites in the description box below for more details. And I'll show a table of the booking deadlines here. Basically, you can book the UCAT and the LNAT in advance and just take the test whenever inside the examination period. Just be aware of individual uni requirements of the date, as I know some unis might require you to sit the test within a specific period as well. And I will also advise booking ahead of time because that leaves a possibility of rescheduling your test in case of a schedule clash. For the other tests provided by Cambridge or Oxford, they usually have a rigid booking deadline and a test date. Some of them even have different cycles, so just be sure to take the one that your uni requires. For example, Oxford requires you to sit the BMAT in the October and November session. Like I say in my self-studying tips video, the key to good grades is often good preparation. Always prepare before rushing into studying. Most admissions tests will have exam scopes, guides, and specification of some sort. So just be sure to grab a hold of these so that you know what you're up against and what knowledge you require to know, etc. Then you should be setting up a goal for yourself. So figure out what grades you're supposed to get for your course, set up a revision schedule, and most importantly, prepare yourself mentally for exam mode. Since you're dealing with UCAS, the A-levels, and admissions tests simultaneously, and that's a lot to handle. Finally, with everything set out, you're then set to scout your resources. Your main resource should be the official study guides and past papers. In some cases, these might not be available, and so you can look for online question banks. These also have another advantage because sometimes they're categorized into different sections based on your test. Some books are also available for different tests, but I personally don't think that any information in books can't be found online, as you can always find study sites or videos on YouTube on exam analysis, question types, and even some of the specific knowledge required. For more details, check out my UCAS prep video and the self-studying tips video. Studying for an admission test is very much like studying for any other exam. As I always recommend, study for one section, then consolidate your knowledge by doing some bi-topic papers, and then finally do some overall papers to familiarize yourself with the exam as a whole. However, there are some subtle differences. For instance, in the UCAT, there's abstract reasoning, which you can't really expect to understand by reading a page of the textbook. And the same goes with section 1 in the BMAT and some other tests as well. In this case, it's more about the skill. Hence, you're better off analyzing question types, standardizing the questions, and then finding ways to tackle them systematically by using past questions. This is where online question banks come in handy, since you can focus on one question type or one section at a time. For the academic parts, they usually overlap with your A-level or GCSE syllabus, so you can just use those materials to study for them. But another thing is that some of them have essay writing sections. And while there's usually not a strict structure, it's kind of difficult to judge your own writing. In this case, I would recommend having someone to help you, like a teacher, a senior, or even just a friend to help give some comments. You can prepare for essays by reading around the subject, practice giving strong arguments and countering them, as well as reading available samples. While you should be generally relying a lot on past questions for revision, it's very easy to fall into a trap when using online question banks and end up spreading your revision unevenly across the different sections. So always remember that while it's important to focus on your weaker items for some time, it's equally important to practice doing the test as a whole in order of the different sections, as that's what the reality is like and you want to get familiar with that. Now that you've studied for the test, it's now time to sit the actual exam. I personally sat the BMAT, and it was in between an A-level chemistry and biology paper, so I'm not sure if it had anything to do with that, but the BMAT was hell for me. It's very easy to be overly confident or overly nervous before sitting the test. On one hand, I consistently got good grades when doing past papers, sometimes even getting 9.0s, but on the other hand, you only get one chance to sit the test, and if you screw that up, then you're going to have to wait a whole other year to apply. If you're overly confident, then just take a look at some of the exam statistics and you realize that it's very hard to get top scores. I went into the exam room feeling nervous, but still thinking that things would go my way, but which wasn't really the case. Because the moment I opened that paper, I got flustered and screwed up a few basic questions, barely having enough time to finish the whole paper. But if you're overly nervous, then just remember that you've done plenty of practice papers and this is just another one of them. If you think that your paper is exponentially more difficult than any other year, then you're wrong and that's just the nerves talking. When you look back at the questions, you then realize that they're mostly the same. Regardless, just try to remain calm throughout the test because there are some strict rules and instructions that you have to follow, and it's easy to get these things wrong when you're nervous and you end up throwing away all your hard work. Alright, so after the test, it's obviously time to receive your results. Most of the admission tests give you a date to tell you when they will post the results, and you typically log into an online portal to see your scores. If you told them which unis you're applying to through UCAS or given them some sort of reference code, then your results will be automatically sent to those unis. On the day, it's very natural to want to go onto online forums and see if anyone's got their results yet, what scores they've gotten, but trust me, that'll just increase your nerves and you're better off doing something else like read a book to get your mind off it, since there's no use thinking about it anyway. One thing that people always ask about admission tests is this a good score? Well, there's actually no concrete answer. While it's always a good thing to get high scores, the cutoff is different every year. So it's best to look at the year-by-year statistics if you're doing past papers. Then compare your score to the admission statistics of your desired course, which in some cases that's publicly available, but sometimes you just have to dig deep enough. So that's all for the third video of the UCAS series, and I hope you now know more about your admissions test than you did before watching this. If you have any ideas, thoughts or questions, then pop in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!